Okay, just making sure it was recording. I'm recording this about 10 minutes till 6 a.m. Central Time on December 27th, 2011. I just got through listening to a BBC radio program called Yeti Finger. Apparently, this finger, and I'll give you the backstory on the finger here in a little bit. This finger, which was allegedly from a Yeti, which was given to a scientist, the late Dr. W.C. Osmond Hill, back in the 1960s. This finger was recently recovered. It was missing since 1961, so for 50 years this finger was missing. But it was recently found at the Hunterian Society, and the finger was actually seen by Peter Byrne, who came to England just to see it, and also went to Jimmy and Gloria Stewart's daughter, who was studying primatology, also got to see it. And the finger was tested, and it came back. I'm going to wait till the end of this to let you know what it came back as. But first, backstory. Here's the backstory on the mysterious finger. Back in the late 50s, Tom Slick has sponsored several expeditions to the Himalayas and to Nepal to find evidence or perhaps bring back a Yeti, an abominable snowman. And one of his expedition leaders was Peter Byrne. Peter Byrne was a very colorful Irishman who had worked as a tea plantation owner, and done various things, and served in the Royal Air Force, things of that nature. Anyhow, Peter Byrne had heard that there was a supposed finger, or excuse me, a hand, a Yeti hand, in the Pengbuche monastery. So he went there, and he talked to some of the monks there. One of them spoke Nepalese, which Peter Byrne also speaks, and they had a conversation. And Peter Byrne was asked if he wanted to see this hand, because he'd asked about the hand, and he said yes, he wanted to see it. So they went up to the top of the monastery, saw the hand, took photographs. Peter took several photographs of it, and Peter asked the monk if he could have it, and the monk said no, because there would be various calamities that would befall the temple if it was removed from the temple, from the monastery. So Byrne went back to London. He was called back to London by Tom Slick, and he met with Tom Slick and Dr. Osmond Hill, and they were sitting around eating lunch or dinner or something like that, and Osmond Hill reached under the table and pulled out a paper sack and dumped out a human hand, a skeletal human hand. And Tom Slick said, I take it that's not dessert, doctor." Well, Hill explained, no, it's not. But what I'm thinking is that if you were to take this hand back to Pengbuche, back to Nepal, and perhaps replace the Yeti hand with this, you could bring the Yeti hand back. And Byrne said, well, I'm not sure I could take the whole hand, but maybe a finger. I could probably take a finger. So he went back to Pengbuche, he went back to the monastery. He met with the monk, got him drunk on scotch, and he cut off one of the fingers of the hand, and then took the human finger from what Osmond Hill had given him, and put it on the Yeti hand, or the alleged Yeti hand, and wired it back up. Wired it up. Well, everybody was perfectly happy. Byrne had the finger. The Pengbuche Monastery still had the hand. By the way, the hand is now missing. The hand was stolen sometime in the 1990s. The hand is now missing. So, anyhow, he takes the finger and he gets a cable from Tom Slick, and Tom Slick says, if you go to the Royal Hotel in Calcutta by a certain date, there'll be a Mr. and Mrs. Stewart there. And it turned out to be actor Jimmy Stewart and his wife Gloria. Well, he went to the Royal Hotel, met with the Stewarts, handed them the finger to smuggle back to London, because they were about to leave to go back to London. And the Stewarts went to London. Well, actually, what Gloria Stewart did was she put the finger in her lingerie case, which I think was an ingenious idea, by the way. And they got to London, and the lingerie case was missing. So they waited a couple of days, and finally a British customs agent came to the hotel, handed them the lingerie case, and Gloria Stewart said, I noticed that the lingerie case is still locked. And the customs agent said, well, yes, ma'am, we would never think of going through a lady's lingerie case. And the finger was still inside it. So they took it to Dr. Osmond Hill, who took a tissue sample from it and examined it. And back then they didn't know what it was. This was the late 50s. This was late 50s, early 60s. They didn't know what it was. That there was no means to examine it like there is today. There were no means to examine DNA like we have today. And there were no means to examine something like that, really. So, the tissue sample was actually lost for about 30 years. Then it was uncovered shortly before an Unsolved Mysteries segment on the Yeti aired in 1992. And they found the tissue sample. They had it tested, and it came back human. Now, Peter Byrne thought, well, this is what we always thought, that the Yeti is human, that these hairy hominids are human, that they're not apes, that they don't walk upright, that they don't, the apes don't walk upright, and things like that. Well, flash forward about 20 years later, a little over about 20 years later, 2011, the finger, which was missing since 1961, locked up, put it in a drawer somewhere in Osmond Hill's office, probably. But it turned out it was actually put with Osmond Hill's collection, which was given to the Hunterian Society. And a fellow named Matthew Hill, who was a health correspondent for the BBC, and he actually found it. He actually found the finger. Found the finger. He called Peter Byrne in America, told him that he found the finger. Peter Byrne immediately flew to England to see the finger. Showed him the finger. Peter Byrne realized, yes, that's the finger. That's the one that I procured from the Peg-Boucher monastery. From this hand, this human-sized hand. Well, the DNA, or excuse me, the finger was tested. The DNA in the finger was tested, and it too came back human. Now, to the proponents of the theory that hairy hominids are actually humans, that means, hey, great, this proves what we've been saying. Not necessarily, because it was human-sized. This was a human-sized hand. It could very well be just a human hand and a human finger. I would have said something if it had been a large, if it had been a huge hand, much larger than humans, I would have probably agreed and said, yeah. I would have probably said, yeah, it's possible that could be a Yeti hand, but it was human-sized. So therefore, it could be just a human hand. And most likely is. It's a bit of a disappointing ending, but I am glad that they found out what it was. I am happy that they found out what it was, because we're after the truth. We're after the truth, and that's all we're after. It's a dead end, sure, but you know, there's going to be other opportunities. It's a bit disappointing, but there's other opportunities. Now, on a bit of an unrelated note, the Ketchum Project has announced that they'll be perhaps announcing results from their testing this Saturday, New Year's Eve. Don't know what time, but it's supposed to be announced this Saturday, New Year's Eve. So late 2011. A lot of people were wondering, you know, when this was going to be announced. When are these results going to be announced? Looks like it's going to be Saturday. And I'll do another video then and tell you all about it. But anyway, pretty exciting developments. I'm glad the finger was found. I am glad that the finger was found, even if it turned out to be human. I'm glad that it was found, because it was something that was lost for over 50 years, and it was found, and I'm glad it was found, and I'll keep you guys updated on any further updates. Talk to you guys later.